Hi, it's the 3x5 guy, news, views, and reviews, scribble on index cards. Welcome to Pick on Trump Day, my favorite day of the week. Oh, wait, that's every day. One never tires of jeering at our glorious Putinista in chief. Yes, you heard me right. Putinista is a word that lurks in our national discourse, and it means just what it sounds like. I mean, whatever happened to the halcyon days when you could call Russia-friendly Americans Reds, Commies, Pinkos? Kidding. Those were terrible times, and those words were used to tar those on the left and destroy careers. Especially if, like me, you believe détente between the United States and the Soviet Union should be the goal. Being enemies with a nuclear-armed country was never a good idea. But many Americans seem to act on the assumption that Russia left communism behind when the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991 and Russia made an about-face to capitalism. The truth, though, is that once Putin came to power, he has basically sought to be Stalin-like, the worst communist ever when it comes to repression, expansionism, and cult of personality. Putin is not quite as iron-fisty as Stalin with his Holodomor in Ukraine and the Great Terror in Russia itself, but he's not that far behind. The following words were written by a New York Times reporter for an article that appeared Sunday. Open quote. Comments by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Vice President J.D. Vance raised fears among attendees that under the new administration the U.S. might align with Russia and either assail Europe or abandon it altogether, end quote. For one who lived during the Cold War, such as myself, this is utterly astounding. It just does not compute. I think that Americans who cheer this on need a new name or brand, as in brand them like cattle. As I inferred earlier, it was always unconscionable to use terms like red, but the term Putinista is perfect for the likes of Trump, Vance, Hegseth, Musk, et al. It makes them sound like the slavish followers of political fashion that they are. Let's drag Putinista out of the recesses of social media and position it in the spotlight all day, every day. Surely you have heard Trump's fantasy of placing Gaza under American control, relocating its people and turning it into the Riviera of the Middle East. I have already placed bids on 2 waterfront lots for myself. Kidding. An analyst in the New York Times wrote, quote, "There is profound contradiction in hearing a president who prides himself on deportations and closing his own borders to migration being so generous in volunteering third countries as recipients of population transfers," end quote. Indeed, Trump actually said, quote, "Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts to send the Gazans to," close quote. Obviously, that would have to be another country. There's a hole where America's heart used to be. Nancy Mace, the unhinged Republican congresswoman from South Carolina, said, "Let's turn Gaza into Mar-a-Lago." I have a better idea. How about let's turn Mar-a-Lago into Gaza? Oops, did I say that? And so the Trump body count resumes. At the height of COVID in 2020, he cast doubt on masks and mocked those who wore them. An epidemiologist calculated if his, quote, statements get 25%, 50%, or 75% from wearing masks, estimates of COVID deaths that could be attributed to Trump were, respectively, 4,244, 8,356, or 12,202, end quote. Now with Trump freezing funds for USAID, research from a reproductive health organization shows that, quote, 11.7 million women and girls will be denied access to contraceptive care over the course of the 90-day aid freeze, which they predict means 8,340 women and girls would die from complications during pregnancy and childbirth, close quote. That's a lot of blood on your hands, Mr. President. or should I say Putinista-in-chief. From the Washington Post to the Los Angeles Times, from ABC to CBS, the media has bent the knee to Trump as far as submitting to real or perceived pressure from the Trump administration. Famed comedy producer and director Judd Apatow, hosting the Directors Guild Awards, wondered whether he should, quote, start making movies and TV that MAGA people would like The Real Housewives of January 6 or Extreme Home Makeover Gaza Edition, close quote. Pretty funny, Judd. Trump exists in a sweet spot. Many, maybe most of his voters, only voted for him as the supposed lesser of two evils. They voted and that was it. End of story. Not to be condescending, but I doubt that many of them follow politics or even the news and have only a vague idea of what he is doing and saying. Besides, break things and move fast sounds good to them. Only MAGA types, for whom he can do no wrong, and those of us who oppose him, are paying close attention to Trump trampling the underbrush of the nation like a rampaging elephant. Thus is Trump free to say or do what he wants without harm to his popularity. For instance, a few weeks ago, after that awful plane and helicopter crash in Washington, D.C., he not only wondered aloud about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, causing the crash, but he refused to visit the site, saying it was only water. Arguably, some of his casual voters would have found that at the very least distasteful, but few were exposed to it. Like most of what Trump does, it fell in that sweet spot where he can be as noxious as he wants and at least a little or no blowback from not only MAGA types, but his casual supporters. I always thought that if only by chance Trump would stumble across the right thing and actually do something constructive. George Bush was my previous candidate for worst president ever because of how he lit a fuse to the Middle East, resulting in an untold amount of death and destruction. But his administration implemented what is known as PEPFAR, the program designed to fight HIV and AIDS in more than 50 countries. It has been called the largest commitment by any nation to address a single disease in history. As shown by the weakening of USAID, helping other countries is seen by the Trump administration as a waste of money. In other words, they are really good at steering clear of positive policies. It's as if those were potholes they dodged to avoid damaging their infernal destruction machine. It's as if they want everything that smells of integrity and compassion to be steamrolled as flat as roadkill. Finally, let's confirm that we are all on the same page. Putinista-in-chief Trump.